Aloha and good afternoon. Happy Monday to you. Thank you for tuning into This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta in the H&N Digital Center. We start today with a live look out at Hilo as we have been closely watching the impacts of Hone as it is now pulling away from the state. And we have an update to pass along in regards to the power outages. HECO officials in their last update said just over 1,900 customers were without power on Hawaii Island, and additional crews from Oahu are arriving today to help with restoration efforts. Crews are working in Lower Puna, Ahualoa, and Honoka'a areas, along with Waimea. Over on Maui, there are still 64 customers in upcountry that are without power, and on Oahu, there are 62 others without power in the Mililani and Schofield areas. Now, our team has been on Hawaii Island, keeping a very close eye on the conditions of Hone throughout the entire weekend. Here's Drew Davis and Casey Lund.
Aloha and good afternoon from Hilo. Drew, tell us where we're at now. We've been here quite a bit.
We've been here throughout the entire afternoon. We've been at the soccer fields right in front of Hilo Bay. We've actually been checking on this area since Saturday. It's an area prone to flooding. There's a drainage canal right here that is overflowed. When we were here on Sunday evening, it was a complete pond, but the water has started to recede. We've been tracking the impacts of tropical storm and then Hurricane Hone, which is back down to a tropical storm all weekend, and we've seen flooding across the entire island.
And I took you up to Rainbow Falls. Talk a little bit about that. That was crazy, right?
Yeah, Rainbow Falls, when we were starting off Sunday morning on sunrise, we walked up and the site was incredible. The water was rushing down. It really speaks for the power of Hone and the power of the atmosphere. The water was rushing down, launching water back up into the sky. It's very moist, very humid over near Rainbow Falls, and it really showed just how much water was coming down. Usually when you think of rain, you don't think all of it added together, cumulative, how much water is actually coming down.
And we saw that in a different area over on Hoaka Road. We got a call from our management at H&N telling us we needed to get over there because we had heard police were helping residents, trying to get them back into their homes. What was happening basically is the stream flooded there so bad that it really kind of created some serious problems on the roadway, and you can see right there, that's impassable. And if you go out in that, even with a pickup or something, the likelihood of your car getting swept away, somebody getting hurt is really serious. So those people were waiting for the water to kind of recede. The rain slowed down, and we hope they're okay. We're going to check on them, and throughout the day, especially as more wet weather is expected. Also, when we first got here, we were just kind of trying to get the lay of the land. We went down to Kalapana. The surf out there, nuts.
Yeah, we got to Kalapana around Saturday, around 5 p.m. for our live shot in the 5 p.m. newscast on H&N, and the surf was huge. All of the water was white water. It was crashing up against the shoreline. It really just spoke, again, to the power of Hone and the atmosphere. And it really wasn't even south of the island yet. It was still off to the southeast. It was before, really, the impacts had started across the entire island. We had seen some rainfall, but it was before we really started to see the flooding starting to happen.
Yeah, and then just to kind of end our day yesterday, we went up Highway 11. On the Pahala side, as we've been covering the school closures today, Pahala Elementary, Naalehu, Pa'u High School, and Volcano. On the other side of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park on Volcano Road, there were several line breaks. You can see that. Look how many of those HECO trucks we came by with buckets, guys and gals working in the pouring rain, trying to restore power, which they did for so many people. But if we kept going up that road, which we did, we went to the Lava Rock Cafe, checked in with Pua Norris. Her and her family own that. Tell us about that. That was pretty cool. They really wanted to stay open.
That's what I will say about the Big Island. The community here is very tight-knit, very helpful. Like at Lava Rock Cafe, they were running on generator power to help their community get supplies, get gas, especially when it was really coming down in Volcano.
Yeah, and of course, you're hearing some of the yard work going on here as people on the Big Island and Hilo, everywhere else, try to get ready to clean up and prepare for the next system, Gilma, which even if it's not a huge storm, could really cause some problems.
Yeah, especially since the ground here is so saturated. Like even here at the soccer fields right by Hilo Bay, it is completely ponding. Yesterday it looked like a lake out here right at the soccer fields, and it's going to be saturated throughout the rest of this week. And with Gilma coming, even though it's currently forecast to dissipate, become a tropical depression, it could still cause some more flooding, even with just a minimal amount of rainfall.
Very good. From Hilo, I'm Casey Lund.
I'm Drew Davis.
We'll send things back to you.
The strong winds also knocked out power to many residents. At one point, there were several thousand people across the state without power. Hawaiian Electric officials said, however, they have worked quickly and restored electricity to many of its customers. And while the eye of the hurricane didn't make direct landfall, strong winds and rain hit the entire state. In Hilo, take a look at the mess it left behind. The soccer fields there were flooded as a result of all of that rain. Over on Maui, a landslide blocked the road on Hana Highway near Upper Waikani Falls. In Upcountry, a roof was blown off of this home, and on Kauai, a boat ran aground on the west side. There was widespread flooding and power outages around Hawaii Island. One store owner needed to use generators to stay open. She refused to close her doors so she could help her community.
Try to have everything that everybody will need as much as possible, especially like gas. Like, as you can see, everybody's been coming in for gas, ice.
Governor Josh Green has issued a disaster declaration, which frees up federal disaster funds to help in the cleanup process. As a result of all of this, some Hawaii Island schools were closed today due to hazardous roads. The DOE announced that Ka'u High School and Pahala Elementary School, along with Na'alehu Elementary School, were closed, and Volcanic School of Arts and Sciences in Volcano and Mountain View were also closed. The campuses are inaccessible with Highway 11 blocked. Impacted families have been notified. As Hone pulls away, we're also keeping a close eye on Gilma. Now is a good time to download our news and weather apps, and you can also share your photos with the Hawaii News Now team. Simply scan the QR code on your screen. Turning now to the race for the White House, former President Donald Trump is now attempting to tie Vice President Kamala Harris to the Biden administration's chaotic and deadly withdrawal of U.S. soldiers from Afghanistan 3 years ago. Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
Former President Donald Trump stood alongside family of service members killed during the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and laid a wreath at Arlington National Cemetery. It was 3 years ago today a suicide bomb attack at the Kabul airport killed more than 100 Afghans and 13 U.S. service members. Speaking to National Guard Association members in Detroit, Trump looked to blame Vice President Kamala Harris for the pullout.
Caused by Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, the humiliation in Afghanistan set off the collapse of American credibility and respect all around the world.
During his administration, Trump signed a withdrawal agreement with the Taliban that the Biden administration carried out.
The Vice President says she was that last person in the room on that decision. Is that failure also hers?
We've got to stop assigning partisan blame on fundamental things like our national security.
The Harris campaign tells CBS News the vice president will start focusing more on foreign policy as she works to persuade more voters that she's ready to become commander-in-chief. Harris returns to the campaign trail later this week with a bus tour of Georgia. Her campaign sees it as a state that's in play and where they're willing to spend some of the more than $500 million already raised on advertising and get out the vote efforts. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Turning now to the Middle East, where there is a dramatic escalation of violence there and fears of a wider war. Yesterday, Israel launched what it called preemptive strikes in Lebanon against the terror group Hezbollah. Then Hezbollah launched hundreds of rockets toward Israel. Imtiaz Tayyab is following all of the developments.
Israeli fighter jets carrying out what Israel's military has described as preemptive strikes across southern Lebanon early Sunday morning. An army spokesman said thousands of Hezbollah rocket launcher barrels in more than 40 sites were targeted, killing at least 6 of the Iran-backed group's fighters. Just hours later, Israel's sophisticated missile defense systems intercepted over 300 rockets as well as military drones launched by Hezbollah into Israeli territory. A naval vessel belonging to Israel in the eastern Mediterranean suffered damage, killing at least 1 soldier. Hezbollah said its strikes were in retaliation for the assassination of a top commander in Beirut last month. We were at Fuad Shukr's memorial service shortly after he was killed.
The calls to avenge Fuad Shukr's death and that Israeli assassination are only growing. People here want revenge.
A revenge attack which took Hezbollah nearly a month to carry out. In a televised address last night, the group's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, said the reason the strike was delayed was in part because of the mass mobilization of Israeli and U.S. forces in the region. Dahlia Scheinlin is a political analyst and author.
It's clear that both sides are still trying to keep this semi-containment, but they both know that they are playing with fire. Now, as of this very minute, it looks like the attack has been contained.
And with leaders from both Israel and Hezbollah signaling that they don't intend to escalate further, at least for now, the death toll in Gaza continues to rise. Over the weekend, Palestinian health officials say over 200 people have been killed and hundreds more wounded in a series of Israeli strikes. NPR's time, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
Back here at home, keep an eye out for this woman. Honolulu police are looking for 71-year-old Lynn Okuhara, who was reported missing over the weekend. Okuhara has dementia and was last seen leaving a medical appointment in the Kapahulu area just before 4 p.m. on Saturday. She is 5 foot 1 inches tall, 130 pounds with gray hair and brown eyes. Call police or Crime Stoppers with any information. An hours-long barricade situation in Mililani came to an end early Sunday morning, more than 12 hours after it began. It all started around 10 a.m. Saturday when police say a 36-year-old man was seen with an illegal explosive. When police got there, the suspect locked himself in his house on Ko'olani Drive. He then refused to exit the home to speak with officers. Crisis negotiators and officers with Specialized Services Division were called to the scene. It came to an end just before 1 a.m. Sunday when the suspect was arrested. He faces charges relating to the alleged explosive and resisting arrest. Some relief for families. The DOE is restoring 20 previously suspended bus routes in central Oahu. These routes serve a little more than 600 students from 7 different schools. In addition, 9 routes in East Hawaii Island and upcountry Maui will be back, restoring service for nearly 200 students there from 9 different schools. All of these routes were restored earlier today. For a full list of the added details, you can go to our website. The Department of Law Enforcement is touting another successful gun buyback event. Officials say they collected more than 500 firearms and numerous rounds of ammunition at Aloha Stadium over the weekend. The guns and ammo were swapped for $100 and $200 Foodland gift cards. We're told 531 gift cards with a combined value of more than $53,000 were given out. The state says future gun buyback events are still in the works. Turning now to the Maui wildfire recovery. Documenting the loss of her family's home in the Maui wildfires, one Hawaii filmmaker is hoping to elevate the voices of the community with a new film called Healing Lahaina. Emily Cristobal has this story.
Director Laurel Tamayo shares a deeply personal story of heartbreak and resilience as her family navigates life after losing their multi-generational home in the August 8th fires.
We couldn't believe that this is our life. What's gonna happen now to all of us?
Among the thousands of structures destroyed in the Lahaina fire is the Tamayo family home. Built from scratch by 3 generations, the home has been part of the family for decades. Everyone knew it as the Yellow House, which you could easily spot from the road. Although Laurel Tamayo was born and raised on Oahu, the island of Maui always had her heart.
I always have fond memories of trips to Maui. Both of my parents were raised on Maui, and so we would go there at least once a year growing up.
Last August, she watched, along with the rest of the world, as Lahaina was left in ashes. Her grandparents' beloved home was lost.
Seeing how painful it was for my family to go through this, my mindset was kind of like, I don't want any other family to have to go through this.
Tamayo works in the entertainment industry, helping to integrate climate-friendly aspects into films. She decided to use her skills to shine a light on Lahaina.
We really wanted this story to be impactful and make a difference. Living on the mainland, I could see that people were already forgetting about Lahaina. You know, there are obviously so many things going on in the world, but I really wanted this film to come out this year so that we could kind of remind people that this is going to be a long road to recovery.
Tamayo gathered a crew, all with ties to Maui, and set out on the difficult task of documenting the story of her family and other community members. The goal, spread awareness about the people who still need help in Lahaina, and to speak up about mental health. She also wanted to help the community learn more about climate resilience.
pretty much a disaster that you can't even comprehend.
A year later, the film is in its final phase. And while Tamayo's learned a lot from this process, it's also her way of healing. A love letter to Lahaina.
The world needs a place like Maui to show them that we can fix things through kindness, through happiness, through helping people. The world needs that, period.
To watch the full trailer or to find out when the film will be coming to theaters, head to our website. This is Emily Cristobal for Hawaii News Now.
Thank you so much, Emily, for that incredible story. Let's send you live outside now for a look at Hilo, Hawaii. Once again, the gray skies are still lingering, but the heaviest of rain has moved away. Stay with us. We'll have more news and weather after the break.
How's it on this Monday? Tropical storm Hone is slowly weakening, slowly pulling away. It's still a very powerful tropical storm with winds at 70 miles an hour, but most of those strong winds and most of the rain is now out over the open ocean. Now behind it, we've got Gilma and we've got Hector. They will weaken before they get to our neighborhood. They will not bring us severe weather like Hone did. Hone really swamped parts of the Big Island yesterday with over a foot of rain, but you can see how much clearer it is there, and slowly the skies will clear from the east to the west. So still a little cloudy with some scattered showers expected for Oahu and Kauai mainly, and the strongest winds are now down to the south. There's still lots of storm activity with Tropical Storm Hone. Now Hone still has winds of 70 miles an hour, so still a lot of strong winds, mostly out over the ocean. You can see it's still a little breezy today, but slowly the winds will be settling down the farther away Hone moves. So we've got some cloudy skies, scattered showers, mainly for the west end of the state today. Much drier with more sunshine by the afternoon. And then we'll still see those winds quite breezy at 15 to 20 miles an hour. Surf still elevated on the east shores, but that Hone swell is quickly weakening. And we've got, because of a lack of sunshine today, the UV index is just at moderate levels. So we'll see the weather definitely settling down, drier by tomorrow for sure. And then we could see a few leftover showers from what's left of Gilma, but we aren't expecting anything in the way of stormy weather. And then on Friday, drier conditions take over in time for the weekend.
In today's From the Feeds, Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio visited Fukushima Prefecture to check on the situation 1 year after the start of treated water was released from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant into the sea. Tokyo Electric Power Company began releasing treated and diluted water from the plant 1 year ago after it suffered damage in the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. In the 8th and latest round of the project, about 62,800 tons of the water were discharged by August 25th. Amid the move, Prime Minister Kishida Fumio visited the city of Iwaki in Fukushima, northeast of Tokyo, to check it out. He went to Onamaha Fish Market, tasted fish caught off of Fukushima, and held talks with representatives of the Fukushima Prefectural Federation of Fisheries Cooperative Associations. The representatives asked the government to ensure safety in decommissioning the Fukushima plant, as one mistake can damage trust that has already been built up. Kishida said the water release is a major step in decommissioning the plant. Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore were supposed to spend 8 days in space. Instead, NASA now says they'll be there until February as they're forced to wait for a SpaceX craft after the Boeing Starliner had a series of problems. Mark Strassman has more on this extended mission.
NASA has decided that Butch and Sonny will return with Crew 9 next February.
NASA's decision switched spaceships and space companies mid-mission.
Ignition.
Back in June, astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams flew to the International Space Station on Boeing Starliner. But now they'll fly home next February in a SpaceX Crew Dragon. Despite Boeing's insistence, Starliner is safe to fly them back.
You know, it's disappointing that they're not coming home on Starliner, but that's okay. It's a test flight.
NASA spent weeks analyzing issues Starliner developed on its flight to the ISS, specifically helium leaks and the overheating of small maneuvering thrusters. That propulsion system's critical to the return flight home, including undocking and the braking burn on the return to Earth. The small engines need to fire hundreds of times to keep the spacecraft in the precise orientation for safe re-entry and on-target touchdown. Instead, Starliner will return uncrewed next month.
There was just too much uncertainty in the prediction of the thrusters. It was just too much risk with the crew.
In a statement, Boeing said, "We continue to focus first and foremost on the safety of the crew and spacecraft. We are executing the mission as determined by NASA." But NASA's decision is bound to frustrate the legacy aerospace giant in what the space agency admits
of trust with Boeing.
Oh, I don't think we're rebuilding trust. I think we're looking at us.
What is certain, Wilmore and Williams will spend another 6 months at the ISS. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Houston.
Back here at home, despite some cloudy and gloomy weather over the weekend, a good-sized crowd still showed up to a beloved annual hula festival at Maunalua Gardens. The Ho'olau Kanaka event featured lots of hula and musical performances from Nahoku Hanohano award-winning artists, along with hands-on demonstrations by master cultural practitioners. Of course, there was also food and shopping. There was also a resource center, educational displays, and much more. For most of the day, the weather actually held up, proving for some nice conditions for all of the performances there at Maunalua Gardens. This event is run annually by Halau na Mamo o Pu'uanahulu. In today's good news now, the inside of one Milwaukee basement goes well beyond storage. It is something much more. Dozens of games and toys line the walls, except none of them are for sale. James Groh stopped by to speak to the woman behind it.
One of these drawers is dice. Like this. Here, this is a die from when I did the NSYNC game. It's Justin Timberlake.
Peggy Brown's Milwaukee basement looks like a toy store.
I think this was going to actually have liftoff, so it had like we added an air bladder inside. But.
Except these aren't games for sale. They're games she made.
I'm a professional inventor. I work with all the major toy companies all around the world, and they come to me for new product ideas.
During her more than 35-year career, she has made McDonald's Happy Meal toys, invented games like Pretty Pretty Princess, Cubits, and Count Your Chickens. She's worked with brands like Kraft Heinz and Barbie, and made games for the movies Space Jam and Last Action Hero.
Asking Peggy what her favorite game she's created is kind of like asking me what my favorite story I've done is. I just don't have a good answer. However, she does have a game she's really excited about, Wildflowers, which just came out.
It's so much fun to make fun.
And she does it all, from conceptualization, production, design, manufacturing, the game name, and writing the rules.
Because I get to make things. You know how satisfying that is?
Her games are so well respected, she has won 3 Taggy Awards, which is like the Oscars for game and toy design.
The way that my brain is happy is when it's producing, and I think that's just the way I am. Once in a while, I'll get fan mail, and I'll hear from somebody that's had this game, and they'll tell me all their family stories about it, and it's just, you just don't know what everybody's doing with all this stuff.
And she's producing games far into the future.
Oh gosh, we're on to Christmas of 26. Merry Christmas.
Her basement is full of the next hot toys and games, but that's behind the camera. I couldn't show you those.
Amazing to see all those creations. Let's end today with a live look out over Honolulu towards Pu'u Vaina or Punch Bowl. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Aloha.